Imagine a world where the very building blocks of life, DNA, were nearly impossible to study in detail, as if scientists were left peering at distant galaxies with fogged-up telescopes. For decades, unlocking the secrets inside a single strand of genetic code was like trying to shout across a canyon always out of reach. Then, under an inky Californian sky in 1983, a restless, unconventional chemist named Kary Mullis took a drive that would change the destiny of biology. Mullis was no ordinary scientist. Long-haired, freewheeling, and quick with a joke, he surfed as much as he read chemistry papers. He thrived at the edges, where convention faded into possibility. To many, he was reckless, too quixotic, too rebellious for the neat rows of test tubes in the corporate lab where he worked. But what he lacked in conformity, he made up for with audacity. In the spring of 1983, Mullis was haunted by a scientific roadblock. The problem: how to make enough DNA to study, to manipulate, to read its deepest secrets. Existing methods could barely amplify a speck of genetic material, frustrating efforts to track diseases or probe ancient remains. The world of genetics needed a revolution, though nobody quite knew what it would look like. One Friday night, legs curled up behind the wheel of his car on a winding stretch of Highway 128, Mullis let his mind drift. He thought about DNA, about its double helical beauty, about copying sequences. Suddenly, a wild, simple question struck: what if you could use the natural process of DNA replication, but in a repeating cycle? Make the reaction exponential, not just linear, a molecular Xerox machine. Excitement flooded his body. He pulled over and began sketching equations on the back of an envelope, heart pounding with the possibilities. On Monday, Mullis barreled into his lab, eyes ablaze. He pitched his idea, polymerase chain reaction, or PCR, to colleagues. Most shook their heads. The whole experiment, they said, was too unreliable, too sensitive, too dependent on expensive enzymes that would break down at the heat needed for DNA to unzip. The room was thick with skepticism. The project seemed doomed. But Mullis was undeterred. He scavenged reagents, tinkered with cycles of heating and cooling, and burned through nights troubleshooting the chain reaction. Failure followed failure: blurry gels, missing bands, no amplification. Critics whispered that Kary was chasing shadows, wasting precious time, acting every bit the maverick. Then, after months of relentless experimentation, the reaction worked. It didn't just work, it exploded. A tiny strand of DNA, barely visible at first, multiplied into millions, billions, of identical copies in just a few hours. A scientific impossibility had become reality. Mullis danced around the lab, a pioneer on the edge of discovery. But acceptance was a distant shore. PCR was so radical that major journals refused to publish the results, dismissing the work as error-prone fantasy. Patent battles erupted, fueled by mistrust and greed. Even inside Mullis's own company, division festered.